What is up, guys? Big Blue in the Bronx is back, and today we have a special video for you guys. It is time to review some New York Mets candidates for the managerial position. Obviously, David Stearns coming in, being the new president of operations. Obviously, no more Buck Showalter, no more Billy Epler for GM. But I did want to put out a video of who you guys or who I thought should be some of the manager choices or options that the New York Mets have. There's plenty of quality guys out there. But before we do that, make sure you guys turn on post notifications, subscribe, like, comment to all our videos so you know when they come out. All right, share out and watch this video to the end so it gets recommended to other places and channels. That is how we grow, and that is how we can create more content for you guys. And again, we've been very appreciative of you guys' support over the past few live streams, over the past few videos and shorts that we made. So we do want to say thank you to that. But nevertheless, I'm going to give you my top 3 guys, and I'll throw in some honorable mentions at the end for this New York Mets manager. And we'll start here. I think the most obvious one that everyone's going to say, Craig Counsell. He would be my number 1 choice in that order. And remember, he's a former player, and I like when a manager is a former player. They have a better feel for the game. He played for 16 years. Remember, this guy was part of multiple World Series winners. One with the Marlins back in like the 90s, or it was their first one in '97, and with the Diamondbacks in, I think it was the 01 against the Yankees. He was the guy that was hit by the pitch before Juan Gonzalez hit the go-ahead knock over Rivera. So he has been part of some big teams. Obviously, he was never a star player, but he did have he was an okay player. He played 16 years. That's nothing to scoff at. Excuse me. But after retirement, Craig Counsell, he was in the Brewers front office pretty much. He played for the Brewers too for a while. And at first he was an advisor to the back then GM Doug Melvin. Anyone who remembers him. But in 2015, they named him manager, and he never managed before that, never really had any coaching experience, and during those first 2 years, they knew they were rebuilding that organization. They knew that they weren't a good team at all, and that was okay. That was the plan. But in that third year, he made a push. A lot of people didn't expect the Brewers to do anything, but he made a push for that year, and they only fell 1 win short back in 2017. And since then, the Brewers, I wouldn't say they're a guaranteed 100-win powerhouse team every year, but they've been a model of consistency of a good playoff team, okay? They've been a good team to get in the playoffs. The next 5 to 6 years after that, Craig Counsell made the playoffs, including this year. His furthest and most successful run was back in 2018, where he went all the way to the championship series, again, then losing to the Dodgers. He also did have some times where he just ran into the wrong team. He ran into that Washington Nationals team that got really hot in 2019. Again, I think the next year after that, there was the Dodgers COVID year where they won. So, again, he did have some bad luck. And now Craig Counsell, in all fairness, has won his managerial record is 707 and 623. That's pretty impressive to win 700 games as a manager. Now, I will say this, though. The postseason record is what is the only biggest concern for me at 7-12. He started out okay, but in his last 9 playoff games, he's 1-8. That is, I'll repeat that again: 7-12 in his current to this day of postseason record, and 1-8 in his last 9 playoff games. So that is a little bit of a cause for pause. Now, however, it has only been with one team, so we don't know if it's really the manager or how the team is built. We have to figure that out. And the reason I say Craig Counsell is a good fit for this New York Mets organization, well, first off, the most obvious, he has a connection with David Stearns. And it's very good, because we always talk about, the GM and the coach, they don't, this wasn't his guy. They don't have any familiarity, no chemistry. Well, that takes care of that, because Stearns was his president of operations when Counsell was the manager back in Milwaukee. So that would be perfect. They have the familiarity, they have the connections, and I know Counsell has his own family in Milwaukee currently, is a home there. But it's not like, I don't want to say it's easy to move, but I'm just saying. And Counsell's a current free agent, but they've expressed interest in bringing him back. But I really haven't heard any contract negotiations or discussions. So that doesn't really, mean he's staying. Doesn't mean necessarily he's going. But it's a lot of up in the air as of right now. Now, the reason I say the Mets are probably more attractive than the Brewers, I know the Brewers have been a playoff team, but the Brewers don't have the money nor the resources that the Mets ownership has. Steve Cohen has shown he has a willingness to spend. Now, it's probably bit him in the past, and we saw how big his payroll this year was and how bad that Billy in Epler used that. No more Billy Epler. And, he learned the lesson of, we can't just throw money at everything. We got to build from the ground up and then smartly attack free agency with the right contracts. And, it's not like Craig Counsell can say that he's ever had like the fullest extent of resources and money, because that Brewers ownership is cheap. If you guys don't remember or don't know, in the summer, the Brewers, there's some rumblings over there that Milwaukee, they might be relocating or having an Oakland A's situation just because of financial. And it's sad because Milwaukee is a very good fan base. Very loud crowd, especially when they're a good team. And like I said, they've been a playoff team 5 of the last 6 years. But if you're in New York, you don't have to worry about that for Craig Counsell, because especially if he wants stability, the Mets can easily provide that for him. Stearns and Cohen working together, they can easily ensure that he's going to be more stable. And, for Milwaukee, I say it's even more tracked over here in the Mets because, Milwaukee's good right now, but you look at some of their contract situations. I mean, some of their key guys are going to leave after 2025. Corbin Burns is going to be a free agent. Brandon Woodruff, although he got hurt this year at the wrong time for the playoffs, he's going to be a free agent. Adrian Hauser, another starter. Willie Adames, one of their power bats, a free agent in 2025. So it's not like they're going to have a lot of long-term stability. I know they got guys like Yelich and Contreras in that lineup for a while, but still, that's a lot of your starting pitching there. That takes a big chunk. And if you're Milwaukee's ownership, I doubt you're focusing on that when you're trying to find possibly a new stadium, or you might even relocate, which, I hope that doesn't happen to them. But nevertheless, with Craig Counsell, he expects hard work out of this Brewers team. Remember, these guys pulled out all-star after all-star for guys out of nowhere. I remember Corey Knebel was an all-star for them. Travis Shaw was an all-star for them. Just out the wazoo. Jeremy Jeffress, all-star for them. So he is able to get the best out of players, and that's what I want to see Counsell do. If he can get the best out of these players, you talk about the everyday players in the core with Lindor and Alonso and Nimmo, and you're gonna have Diaz back, and now Kodai Senga's in the mix, and Jeff McNeil. You want to see the best seasons out of them, because we had some disappointing seasons or disappointing starts to this season, and hopefully Counsell can turn that around, because there's just no excuse for any of these big stars to have any parts of a bad season. We need consistency out of our players. And number 2 on this list, this shouldn't come to a bit of surprise at all. Another guy that's a very qualified candidate in my opinion, and that's Joe Espada. Espada, he was a former player too. He never really panned out, but good. Another guy with a feel for the game. And after retirement, remember, he was the Marlins hitting coach, back in the late 2000s. And guess who was one of his big hitters? I know Yankee fans know him very well. One of the big hitters that he helped develop at the time, not Giancarlo, but Mike Stanton. He was in Miami to start his career, and he was a prospect out of their organization, a very raw prospect that he helped develop in the minors and helped to what he is now, and how his career, maybe not recent years, but at least the start of that Miami career. So that's good. Then after Miami, after the hitting coach, became their third base coach, which was good. In 2015, so he spent about almost 8-9 years with that Marlins organization. 2015, Yankee fans know he was their infield coach, and then he became their third base coach for about 2 seasons. Okay, he was part of the Joe Girardi staff, and or it might have been Boone. I can't remember which staff. I'm pretty sure it was the Joe Girardi staff that he was a part of. So fact check me if I'm wrong. But in 2017, he goes to the Astros and becomes their bench coach. And you know what? Say what you want about the 2017 World Series. They cheated. Whether it affected or affected, I mean, I think it's clear cheating. But he did win the World Series 2017. You want to say that's tainted? Fine. Well, he did. He was their bench coach in 2022 with Houston. So he does have a World Series under his belt as a bench coach, as an Astros manager. He does have some managerial experience. You know, in the World Baseball Classic, has managed the Puerto Rican team multiple times, so that is good. And this is a guy that the Mets have sought after before. They had interest in 2021. Before he was another candidate while they were discussing whether to bring him or Buck Showalter in, not Joe Buck, Buck Showalter. And they had interest in him, and he's had interest in interviews with other teams in the past. I know, you know, there was talk that he could be a Texas Ranger. There was talk that he could be a Chicago Cub. But that's really what they, what they need. And he's learned under a lot of good managers. And they have a lot of respect for him. You know, I said earlier, Joe Girardi. I know he was there at the start. I don't remember if he outlasted him, but pretty sure it was the same tenure. He worked under A.J. Hinch. He worked under Dusty Baker, who had a lot of praise for him. And he's one of these guys that's been a hot commodity. At some point, sooner or later, Espada should get a spot as a manager. And again, he has the experience and been managing over for a decade. So it's not like this guy is a nobody. People around the league know who he is, and eventually he's going to get recognized by someone. And the players, you know, they have respect for him. I mean, you know why one of the former Astros, Michael Brantley, I think it was last year, he had a lot to say of positives about him, but it was just incredible from Espada to work with some of the managers he worked with and all the praise that he got. And I think he's the qualifications to be a Mets manager. Now, number 3 is a little bit of a shocker because I haven't really mentioned him in anything before, but I do like this guy just because he's very similar to Counsell, but he doesn't have the experience yet. And that's Quintin Berry, the current first base coach of the Milwaukee Brewers. He was a former player for 5 seasons. If you guys don't remember, he's actually part of that Detroit run in 2012. I think he was primarily known as a base stealer, but he was like 21 for 21 or something like that. And then also he was part of the Red Sox World Series. I think it was 2013. I can't remember the exact year. Whenever they won it back in the mid 2000s. Fact check me if I'm wrong. My memory is terrible sometimes. And after retirement, he was announced that he would be the first base coach of the Brewers. And the reason I like this is because, you know, he's got the familiarity with Stearns. So Stearns does trust him. He is a younger guy, so if the Mets do go that route, that would be perfect. He could be a perfect fit there and implement what Stearns likes. Also, you know, it's been well said that the Brewers players and coaches around him, they feel he's a good motivator. They feel he's a good inspirer. They feel he brings a lot of energy to them. So maybe, you know, that gets some of these guys going that have struggled. Maybe he gets the younger players to even develop more. We could see about that. We talked about how hard the Brewers organization worked, obviously, with Counsell, but maybe that really helps develop some of these guys that are going to either be called up or going to be here for a long time. If the Mets do go down that route for a younger option, I would like Quintin Berry. Again, the fact that he's also worked with this winning like every year he's been there. I mean, I know he's not the head manager like a Craig Counsell, and that's why he's not as higher on this list. But Quintin Berry, you know, you work for a winning organization. You know what it takes to win. You know, he even said it was like an interview they were doing 2 years ago. He likes to see his players' hard work and get the benefits and rewards. It may not have been an interview. I think it was actually a documentary that they did with the Brewers, and he was all mic'd up and stuff. And he likes to see his guys put time and effort. And remember, there was reports, you know, coming at last year with Tommy Pham, you know, critiquing some of the work ethic of players, and maybe that's what they need. Maybe they need a younger guy who preaches work ethic, who preaches, how to do things correctly, because that is not something that some of the Mets players, I could say, put in their best effort. So that is, those are the top 3 guys, in my opinion. Some honorable mentions, actually. Mike Shildt, the former Cardinals manager, I really liked him because, I'm pretty sure he's the Padres third base coach now. But before that, before he got fired in St. Louis, he managed them for 4 seasons. They were a playoff team every year in the Central. And one thing he really was, so adamant on with that, remember those Cardinals teams, he turned them from being the worst defensive team to the best, and the base running was excellent. Those are 2 fundamentals I like when a winning ball club, okay? And he really relied heavily on those leaders, and showed people how to be leaders. Not that, he didn't, not that those players weren't, but remember the guys like Yadier Molina, and they brought back Albert Pujols and Wainwright. It was good that he knew who his leaders were, and maybe he can make some of these guys a leader. Who knows? Another guy that was an honorable mention, Danny Lehman. I believe he's the first base coach of the Dodgers, and or the bench coach. Excuse me if I'm incorrect about that. But Danny Lehman's been in that Dodger organization for at least 5 years for now, and he's been a very hot young commodity. I believe he's only 38 years old, so we could see about that as a possibility. Give him a shot. Another guy that I've heard of that I would definitely take a look at, Kevin Long, the hitting coach. He's been a hitting coach. Every team he's been on a hitting coach for, he has either brought them to the World Series or won the World Series. I mean, first he was with that Yankees squad back in 2009 when they won the World Series. He was their hitting coach. He's been with the Mets in 2015, so he's been a Mets hitting coach before, but maybe he could be their actual manager now. He was their hitting coach during that 2015 run. Then he was also I believe he was the hitting coach also for I think it was the Phillies, if I'm not mistaken, when they went to the World Series last year. So you could fact check me if I'm incorrect, but that's a very good resume to have, in my opinion. And he might have been with the Nationals. There's something I'm wrong about there, but that is okay. And with Will, the next guy I was about to say, last honorable mention would be Will Venable. He was a former Padres, a player. He's had some managerial experience before. With Boston, I believe, but this year he was I think like an associate manager, an associate to the Texas Rangers and Bruce Bochy. So Bruce Bochy speaks someone highly of. It's definitely him to be working alongside of him. So he's someone, just because of Bochy, I would definitely be interested in a Will Venable just to give him an interview. So there's probably some candidates that I did miss too. I know there's guys in our organization that could get a look at: Danny Barnes, Eric Chavez, the AA manager, Reed Brignac. But personally, I just don't think Stearns is going to hire within the organization. I think he wants to bring his own people. Not to say that these guys are going to be fired, but I think Stearns wants complete control, and I think he wants to bring in who he thinks is the right people from outside the organization. But nevertheless, guys, that was the top 3 Mets manager choices. If you guys have any others, you guys can put a comment. Any questions you can put in the comment section. But nevertheless, have a good one, and I will see you in the next one.